Set in a violent, gritty, unforgiving world, The Blade itself presents its story without ever shying away from hard and dark truths. Although various subplots and events can be unsettling to read, they never fail to produce an incredibly compelling narrative. Contrary to the preponderance of stories featuring an overarching plot, the first installment of the First Law Trilogy remains relatively murky when it comes to revealing what exactly is the goal of the character we, as readers, have the pleasure of following along. Instead, the story trusts its extraordinary quality of storytelling, characterization, and world-building to hook the reader with the promise of progressively expanding upon the various hints to the ongoing events. The clues of a world filled with thrilling lore, mysteriously deep and intrinsically fascinating, delicately allude to a dark danger that dwells in the unknown to hide and plot, which always made me eager to discover yet another additional piece of the puzzle. In a story that plays with multiple points of view, it's easy to lose interest when the focus switches to characters you like less than others. Imagine then how pleasantly surprised I was to be disabused of this notion, one I held true for so long. Every character is so remarkably well realized. Their mannerisms and different approaches to situations that beset them bring an air of authenticity to the world. Blowjin Ninefingers and his constant dance with trouble and death, eager to avoid battle but never shying away when things get bloody. Jezzel and his ingrained arrogance that hides mundane insecurities. Artie with her outward defiance and struggle with trauma. Honestly, I could go on and on about each character, but suffice to say that the story arcs they undergo throughout the book are each interesting in their own right. Some aboard more mundane romantic and narcissistic insecurities, while others paint traumatic events in a light that can be almost hurtful to read. All, however, are enthralling page-turners. Fantasy stories filled with fight sequences, violence, and conflict are no longer strangers to me. Fight sequences so well thought out, able to effortlessly connect the outcome of each blow to the positioning of the evading and constantly moving foes, however, are not something that I see every day. The Blade itself has few as its equals in that regard. Joe Abercrombie manages to convey the expertise of a well-trained warrior in a fashion that makes apparent that the difference between life and death lies in a single mistake, and the apprehension birthed by this realization acts as yet another factor that keeps the reader unable to put the book down. This contrast between the sureness of a confident warrior and the looming mortality brought by the uncertainty of the outcome is expertly used and never becomes overly predictable. Although the tone gets darker as the story progresses, better to say it never was anything but dark, I couldn't get enough of it. Alright, the book is excellent. However, now is the time to introduce the dreadfully awaited, and this time it's not even a downside. The Blade itself feels like a prologue to the real story that is to come in before they are hanged. It was but the laying of the foundation to a greater story that has yet to begin being told. Both the mystified appearances of magic, which remains entirely unexplained, and the obscurity of the goal to be achieved contribute to this impression. That, however, does not diminish the story in any way. If anything, it makes me more eager to read the next book. The Blade itself is dark, and it does not hesitate to show both physical and psychological violence, but it is exactly this clarity of realism that makes the topics hit home more often than not. I read this book expecting lots of violence and a darker tone. Though that is undoubtedly plentiful and incredibly well executed, it was the painfully relatable characterization and the mysteriousness of the world that thoroughly enthralled me from the beginning to end. Thank you for watching. What are your feelings toward this book? I would love to hear all about it in the comments below. Consider subscribing if you want to see more reviews like this. See you at the next one.